Hey guys, you know, I really like to watch the testimony from Philip Keel. I put on both our timelines yesterday, all our timelines. So if you go to the link of this post and go into our page, the witness page of Street Wisdom Bible, please look at Philip Keel's testimony. It's only 20 minutes. He's one of our followers who's been following us for a long time. You see many testimonies on my platform from many followers and the experiences they're going through and the miracles that are happening. People that follow me are having miracles all over the world, divine interventions, divine power. If you take Philip Keel came to me because he was suffering, okay? He was suffering a lot. And nearly everybody that comes here, right, has gone through suffering, stress, fear, anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, and paranoia. And that's what everyone's going through right now worldwide. More stress than ever, more judgmental and competitive behavior than ever. You know, the Bible says we're going into the greatest spiritual warfare in human history and psychological warfare. Psychology versus spirituality. Mentality versus spirituality. Okay? So most people think too much and they're in their mind too much and they're suffering the consequences. And that's been escalating, going through the roof with stress and anxiety and drug pandemics. And so many people take drugs today to cope, because most people take drugs to cope because they can't cope, whether they be illicit or not. You know, when I was a child, I was rejected, okay, by my parents as an outlaw. I became an outlaw. And I was rejected in school. I left school about 12 years old. I didn't do too well. I had a lot of stress and anxiety. I took drugs. I took many drugs. And I became a bad junkie and had a raging habit. I watched half my mates die in heroin, 3 die in my arms, and I flatlined myself at 18 years old and went through hell. I walked around like a zombie for a week. And then I battled getting off the drug for the next 2 years. And coincidentally, a car accident saved me. I got hit by a drunk driver at 100 miles an hour, and it put me in shock, in absolute shock. And I sat in my bedroom for 3.5 weeks and never took drugs ever again, which was the best thing that happened to me. If it wasn't for a drunk driver hitting me, I don't know where I'd be today, because it's as if it was a miracle. I sat in my bedroom for 3.5 weeks staring into space, but I never took drugs ever again, and I changed my whole life. I was in the streets as a junkie and didn't do very well in life, you know, and I had a raging habit, and the car accident actually saved my life and changed everything in my life. I got married and had 2 kids. I couldn't hold the job down, so I started to buy and sell cars. The most favourite car in Australia, the most collectible item. And I basically became an entrepreneur in the underground world from a backyard seller. And I created more friends and relationships than anyone ever come to meet in my life. Because of what I went through myself and the suffering I went through and the drugs, I didn't have time to create a Hollywood character. I didn't create a mentality. I followed my instincts and always thought instinctively. Because I was drowned in a bathtub at 2 years old and I didn't even know. I was told years later. But at 5 years old, I said to my mum, "Mum, what happened?" Okay, I was having a nightmare. She said, "What are you talking about, son?" I said, "Mum, you're sitting in a cell, I'm sitting in your arms, and we're shit scared, Mum, and there's bombs outside this little window. And there's bowling ball racks on each side, Mum, and we're shit scared, Mum. Where were we? What happened?" My mum freaked out because I was only a child. I was innocent, right? And that's the only thing I said, right? I was having this nightmare. But it was really my mum and her mum, my grandmother, in World War II in 1945, 15 years before I was born. And it wasn't me. And my mum didn't know how to deal with it, because I'm coming to her, asking her where were we, what happened, and then describing the moment perfectly as if I'm her, and every single thing she felt. We have genetic memory and a genetic process. We also have genetic hereditary gene defects, which the world's escalating with all over the world today. They said the largest human being born on Earth that can use his genetic memory was born in 1960. I'm born 1960, and my mum got bipolar from stress and anxiety in 1974. And then I got it 4 years later when I got off drugs. Okay, when I got off drugs, I was in stress and anxiety in my childhood, taking drugs, flatlined at 18, and then fought drugs for 2 years, then had the accident and got off drugs. Then I had stress and anxiety and was diagnosed with bipolar. The thing is, in the long run, I cured it, and my mum didn't. And when they went into mental health research and DNA studies, they found me in 2008. And I was the first person they found that could cure the human condition with DNA studies done and mental health research in the biggest operation in global history. Okay, when we declared posthumous states in 1999. And I went to jail in 2001. Okay, I was on the front page of the Brisbane Courier Mail with all the guns that disarmed Australia 5 years earlier, when they paid, or the taxpayers paid for guns to disarm Australia from the Bryan buyback plan. We had the guns in the front page of the paper 5 years later in big black writing. These are the guns that disarm Australia, and every serial number checked out. And you have to ask yourself, what were they doing in our hands 5 years later when the taxpayers paid for them to be destroyed? We also took over 2 top scientists from NASA, okay, and reversed Hitler's plan and created a truth serum, the most powerful enlightenment drug and the most powerful truth serum in the world. On every study done across every test in the course of human conditioning and finding the cure for it with blood tests, DNA, and mental health research. So without realising it, I'd created something I didn't even know, a truth serum that brought people back in the promo state to use 100% of their brain. You can see in the movie Limitless. And I was unaware of this. I hated drugs, right? Because of what I went through in my life and watching my mates die on heroin, so I hated drugs. But when it went to prostitution and we reset the laws, in the toughest laws, in the Fitzgerald inquiry, I ran into people who started using meth. And I had mates on heroin that had been taking heroin for years. And they had a terrible, terrible life and their family. Man, if you know heroin and how it affects people, it devastates the whole family and people around them, right? And, I never gave up my mates, right? I separated from them, right, after what I went through when I got off drugs because I had to stay away from those on drugs and change my life. But, I never stopped caring about what my mates were going through that I grew up with, my best mates. When I found out that methamphetamine, made laboratory correct, can actually stop people on heroin and give them a heaps better life because, there was a happy pill out from 1940 to 1980, and 80% of the population was on a happy pill called amphetamine, which was amphetamine speed. They deemed certain to be dangerous in 1980, but not the drug. So 2 top scientists moved into almost Brisbane, Australia with 5 international networks and made 10 ton amphetamines into Amsterdam, Florida every month for 14 years straight. In the Burroughs case, when they took down the Burroughs case in 1994, they implemented the first laws and they busted the Burroughs case with a factory in New Farm in the middle of Brisbane. They were doing over 10 ton at a time. You got done with 20 ton of pseudoephedrine. That was the first laws implemented against amphetamine and methamphetamine. Up till then, it was legal. And 10 ton was sent to Florida and Amsterdam every month for 14 years straight because it was already market strategies set up where 80% of the population was on a happy pill in 1980 when they doomed pseudoephedrine to be dangerous. But they never deemed speed, amphetamine and methamphetamine to be dangerous, only pseudoephedrine. And it's a reduction when you do a cook, which means you reduce the danger as well. So therefore, they were not deemed to be dangerous, only pseudoephedrine was. So back in the 70s, the truckies used to buy it over the counters, and nearly every truckie in Australia was on it. Mate, I'm telling you now, 80% of the population was on it. Tony Abbott, the Prime Minister of Australia, did a manual to us in 2016 on governments, authorities, defence force, and all the government workers, police departments, And he went worldwide on media in 2015. He said they were all 57% positive to meth, and 79% of people admitted to using it. How many didn't? It's also ADHD medication. So how many people is really on this drug? Well, America uses 1.5 ton of meth every day. It's also in fentanyl with the drug delivery system. Like, a lot of meth is made with opiates in it that Hitler created, okay? Like MBK, methylbenzoketone, and many others. Ice comes out all over Asia with opiates in it or with heroin, and a lot of ice is heroin, has opiates or heroin in it. And Hitler created that drug. And the ice and the opium has a very similar adverse effect as MDMA. And MDMA was first made in 1996 by scientists in America. And it hit the street straight away, immediately, but it was first developed in 1996. And MDMA didn't exist, but MDMA was the ultimate drug because we create MDMA in our sacred secretion, right? Which is an ecstasy feeling, high as a kite. And when we're in a primal state, we're very high as a kite. And we create the chemicals of DMT, opiates, meth, and MDMA with an ecstasy high feeling. And we're so negative today, we don't have that kind of love anymore and that kind of feeling because we're living in the wrong barcode systems. We've been designed on reverse psychology and program engineered into our mind, into personality, and we have amnesia in all our biological genes. I can master my mind, use 100% of my brain because I think outside the mind, like you see in the movie Limitless. And people don't understand this concept because it's different. It's not the same as thinking with the mind. It's something completely different, right? It's a vortex of information with a universal language, like you see in the movie Limitless, where he gets information that comes through the atmosphere, right? So you have a codependent relationship with that atmosphere that gives you the authority in your spirituality, but not in your mentality. Not when you're trapped inside your mind in a personality. Then you're very limited and can only use 7 to 15% of your brain. And no one in the world can use more than 15% of the brain for this reason, because they're trapped in their mind in a personality with mentality. When you cross over through the rebirth, you're in spirituality. And then you control your best from the outside in, like Keanu Reeves in the movie documentary Matrix. You can also respond 7 times faster than you think, okay? A lot faster because you follow your gut feelings of mode, the chakra, and you can feel things and read things with deja vu, where you can predict the future and prevent what's going to happen, and with remote viewing. And these are natural organic motor skills with mental telepathy, ESP, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, deja vu, and remote viewing. And we don't have those abilities anymore. We lost our abilities. But these are the abilities in our DNA coded with genetic memory and genetic ancestry tools. And we've lost them. We don't have them anymore because we're trapped in our mind with mentality and think we know better, but we don't. Egotism is the worst tool in the world to be competitive and to think with reasoning because it's 5 senses in negative fields. And reasoning is not saying it's evil. It's saying you're only supposed to use a mathematical computer to work things out with. But you always make your decisions instinctively, not mentally and psychologically with reasoning. Reasoning helps you work things out. And your mind's only a mathematical computer to work things out with. You're only supposed to use it 1 to 5%. But we use it 95 to 99%. And that's what the problem is. Those that think instinctively tune out of programs that say in the Matrix because they're far more advanced. CIA's released a document with NASA and NSA with the most powerful masterminds in the world on the RSVP list, Research Succeeds to Perfection. I'm on the top of that list in the Gatekeeper Report in the Star Champ Inquiry. So I'm number 1 smartest person they've ever come across by NSA and the biggest think tank in the Star Champ Inquiry on the Gatekeeper Report. Number 1 most wanted. And I do things that no one else can do on 7 different reports. I designed laboratory glass that no one ever thought of that took a 14-hour process down to 3.5. I stand an Indian number in such a way the X-ray machine 7 years later could not detect it with perfection. I was in the front page papers King Vice, 17 current affairs shows as a mastermind loopholes of laws and manipulation. I can unravel living. I became the most wanted in the Star Champ Inquiry. Arrested with 113 people by the Star Chamber inquiry when the federal police and the National Congress went to Parliament House to seek authority to unleash the biggest think tank for one reason alone. Once they'd done a lot of studying me with all these tools and these outcomes, they had me on direction microphones, 24-hour surveillance. When they realised they put pen to paper in a courtroom with my name on it, I could feel the truth straight away with remote viewing, and they discovered that with direction microphones that I knew in a heartbeat with adrenaline and could prevent what was going to happen. So I could see things with deja vu and predict what's going to happen with remote viewing. And they discovered that I had these godlike abilities. And as my risking officer said, to retire as a police force, because the fact is, we brought down the highest death time in Hector violence and misdemeanors in 30 years, from 1996 to 2004, to the lowest statistics in 30 years. And the work plummeted in every police station across the whole nation. Okay? And the most powerful truth serum went into courtrooms all over the nation and people going to jail into the biggest mental health research and DNA studies done. And they found the cure of the human conditioning like this, right? With the drug called manna in the Bible that Christ and Moses used, made from a plant called mayam that I developed, the most powerful enlightenment drug and truth serum in the world. And all it is a mind manipulation drug that activates your own sacred secretion and takes you out of your mind, out of your shell, like you see in the movie Limitless, right? If you look at the movie Limitless, when he first takes the drugs, he sees himself and looks back at himself like Keanu Reeves. He's in the light at the end in the tunnel that played at Scrubs in 15 books. Christ talked about this. He was right about this. Sticking your head out the cave through the light of the end tunnel. He said, think outside the mind, you can do it, I can more. The mind's got no idea. You see this in the movie Limits. He comes out of his shell, out of his mind, and he gets a massive clarification. He writes a book overnight that's brilliant. He goes down to Wall Street and makes millions of dollars. Now, as the drugs in the underground world, MBK, that Hitler created, methylbenzoketone, it's a dangerous drug, but very powerful, 11 times more superhuman abilities. When you fine-tune that drug, as you see in the movie Limits, he fine-tunes the drug in the end. Well, that's what we did. We worked with all these drugs, right, with the Sumerian tablet and the two top scientists from NASA, and we found the most authentic drug in the world on the Sumerian tablets. And this was bread manna that Christ and Moses used from a plant called mayam. And we discovered this and made the most authentic drug, naturally and correct, without human side effects, which you see in the movie Limits. He refines and retunes the drug, but they don't go into details because it's a movie with propaganda. Okay, they can't give direction to this kind of thing. But we made the most powerful enlightenment and truth serum and love drug in the world that brought down the highest death time in misdemeanors in 30 years. Now, the Brisbane Royal Commission, or the Royal Commission Australia, has been paying out for 23 years for kids going into homes to get raped and bashed and becomes prisoners and prostitutes later. Over 23 years have been paid out and still paying out to this day. These were kids taking off their parents, going home to get raped and bashed and becomes prisoners and prostitutes later. These statistics went to the lowest in 30 years and 4 years. Imagine how powerful of a truth serum and a love drug this really is when kids don't get taken off their parents because their parents has a real love in a love drug and knows how to love their kids on a drug, but don't know how to love their kids without the drug. You can see in the movie Limitless, right, that religious, political cults and New Age behavior and any grammar you select will not work. A drug can show you what your capacity really is. So we now use We're Not Breathing program is won a Nobel Prize to recreate the sacred secretion with the holy breath of life that resets your biological clock in your central nervous system. The holy breath of life, I call it, because it is. It brings you back in your primal state, right, with your biological genes, with your natural selection and natural order in life. We put you through a 40-day test that Christ went through, fasting. Take zinc, iron, magnesium, and drink liquid. He didn't. He had no food and water for 40 days, no music, no sound, no frequencies, no nothing. He walked into the desert by himself without food and water. Now, I discovered something because I was put on this path to discover the most powerful thing in the world that not too many people knows about, only a handful of people. How to cross over back in your primal state. Now, 40 days fasting and get off screens and radio waves and get off the 5 sense world. Get in your 6 sense. That's your spirituality. It's 27 biofields. You have 32 senses. Okay? You have dimensional thinking outside the mind. And when you get off screens and you fasten yourself and isolate yourself and mind your own business and keep to yourself, don't get into any argumentative or cognitive behavior or competitive behavior with anybody. If you have a family, you have codependent relationships, which people don't have anymore. They conquer, debate, and divide more than ever as we normalise epistemology today non-stop and keep twisting the fabric truth with artificial intelligence and leverage imitation and the grammar that we select with atheism without even realising it. That's dumbing us down so much you have no idea. With voices in our mind that's ultimately designed for extinction because they're only personalities. So when you think too much and you think critically, the voice tells you do it, and don't do it, and give you 5 reasons why you shouldn't, when you have your back up against the wall. But you'll do as you're told. You're the one that's going to make up your mind, right, what you're going to do. And with the stress, fear, and anxiety going on today in your body cells and corruption illusion during the daytime and can only be at nighttime, everybody's dying from pre-existing conditions, right, from stress-related diseases. Every single thing we die prematurely from is stress-related, and we all die younger and younger all the time. No one gets older. No one gets wiser. They get more stupid. I was brought up with street wisdom, okay? Not religious, political behaviour or New Age culture on screens, radio waves, or in any kind of educational system. I was rejected, right? So I had to find my own footsteps through life. And, I set the circumstances here. We're the most powerful confirmation on earth that you ever see in your life. There is no one on earth that can compare with me with what I've done and what I've gone through. But the fact of life is this. Okay, no matter what, I know my bad. I know my good, okay? But my good far outweighs the bad no matter how you look at it. It's not about what you do, it's about why you do it. I went into the drugs to save my mates on heroin, and it worked. And when I saw how much it worked for a whole family, I knew it would change the circumstance a lot more than what the system was doing. And I didn't care what people thought about me. I sacrificed everything in my life to save my mates. And when I saw how much it changed their lives and their family, and when their dad and their mother and their sisters and their brothers came personally to thank me, when you get a reward like that, you don't care what people say. You don't. Because you know that you're changing people's lives in the home front that no one really cares about. Reality's at home, behind closed doors, not on a screen with actors and Hollywood spinners and American dreamers that just want to make a name for themselves. I'm not like that. Right? I didn't create a character or a Hollywood character or American spinner or some sort of self-proclaimed nutcase that thinks he knows everything about life when he doesn't. He just lives off grammar. And he said, she said to the documents. And everybody does. They have no genuine true life experience with models that I've got. They've never done what I've done. Wouldn't even dream about it in a million years. I had the biggest brothel in South East Corner, Queensland, under the toughest laws, and Squeezy magazines for 2 years said, we set the standards with the most positive atmosphere on earth, that we set the model for P2B to revamp the laws with. And when you see these things, and we bring down the highest dead time, Hecky, King, and Bonds and mismarriage in 30 years, that caused the Royal Commission paying out for 23 years, and the stolen back donation apology today, being paid $250 billion a day, the biggest mental health research and the biggest DNA study ever done. You are seeing miracles by the truckloads here. You're seeing the biggest miracles ever take place in human history with DNA. That's what you're seeing here. The biggest miracle in human history right here with me. And the most powerful miracles with divine intervention in hospital records was in Brisbane, 1992, and Ipswich. Brisbane PA Hospital, 1990, right? And Ipswich Hospital, 1992. The two most powerful divine interventions with miracles are recorded with me. That's not a joke, okay? There are more miracles in life with me than anybody else. And my own arresting officer, Minicop, said, Kim, we know you have an angel watching over you with these kind of miracles and godlike power. And they turned to me and commended me on their affidavits and retired the police force because they could see it and they could feel it and they know what we did. And, like, everyone's a credit thief and a liar in the world. Everybody's just a credit thief and a liar through the whole system. The system's full of BS. Cops and politicians are full of BS. Teachers are full of BS. The whole world's full of BS. Credit thieves and liars everywhere. You think I get any recognition for this? Not in a million years from anybody. That's how disgusting human society really is. When God developed something like this, with the most powerful confirmation ever seen on earth, and the biggest merge in human history with the book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbons, the Holy Grail of Life. The biggest merge in human history with When I Breathe the Program, the Holy Breath of Life, and the book Freedom by Jeremy Gibbons, the Holy Grail of Life. The most powerful merge with 16,000 top scholars in the world merging on the same page, DNA, the book of life. We can do what Christ can and more in every study done. They found the largest people on earth that can do everything Christ can and more. And I'm the cab, the first cab and number one of the rank in every study done for 34 years. And DNA, I'm number one primordial being that can do every single thing that Christ can and more, with DNA to back it up, and the most powerful miracles ever recorded. So, obviously I know more about resurrection and being in a primordial state in the Christ image than you do, because I'm in that image. And, it comes, right, with a lot of intervention and a lot of divine power. And I went through hell in my life, in the biggest mental research for 10 years in jail as well, and suffered a lot. I come out of jail, I was clinically dead the third time in 2012, and went through a massive transformation I cannot even begin to explain in a way you'd really understand when you are trapped inside your mind and can only 7% of your brain. Your mind doesn't understand everything about outside the mind, and I can never explain that to you because your mind doesn't understand. It's a known fact for human history. And Plato, the greatest philosopher of all time, wrote 15 books about this and knew this. So did Einstein and Hawkins and the top scholars in the whole world. And they've been studying the human condition and Plato for 45 years and found the cure for the first time in human history. And it's my DNA and the biggest research that leads to the cure of every single thing we suffer from, because I can cure things and cure other people and bring someone back to life in 1992 with 7 billboards and CCTV, who wrote the most powerful poem in 2003, the one and only. And they studied this and interviewed this person. And she said, I'm the one that had the divine power to bring her back to life. Jan, my brother, died in the Kempsey bus accident in 1990. Okay, that stopped Australia in 1989, 22nd December. He was in a coma for 3.5 weeks, woke up. 20 people died in his bus, including his wife. Over the next 10 days, as Dr. Wright and the Queensland Mental Health put in the paper, in the front page of the paper, is a big miracle. Okay, they were atheists and they were there in these moments, and 19 people came to say goodbye to my brother. My brother never remembered the accident. He didn't know anybody in the bus. They wrote down every name he said goodbye to, and every single name he said goodbye to was the first name of every person that died in that bus. That was confirmed. They were there when Kathy came and many others. But we were all there, and the doctor was there, and the psychiatrists were there when Kathy came, the last one. And in the paper, they wrote exactly what she said. She said the driver went in the abyss. She was the only one that made it. And the other 18 were lost, getting one more final chance. Now, look, he was in a coma for 3.5 weeks after the accident. So this is after 3.5 weeks. They came to say goodbye to him and getting one more final opportunity because they were lost, trapped with amnesia in a reincarnation trap, and God developed this. Christ learnt reincarnation and life after life, and at 24 woke up when he went for a 40-day fast, right? You know, a lot of videos made by this are put up my video on my platforms. Many videos about this, one just the other day. So in 40 days, Christ woke up from amnesia at 24 and discovered who he was and said, I'm son of David, son of Abraham, with his genetic memory and his ancestry to his code in his own DNA. I have those memories, and I went through a transformation to unlock my own genetic process and my own genetic memory with those memories. And I went through that transformation without realizing it. And, you know, it was a hell of an experience because my personality and mentality had no idea what was going on. My mind did not know what was going on. And I went through a lot of stress and anxiety going through this transformation because your mind doesn't know. It hasn't got an idea what's going on. And you're getting divine intelligence with a universal language, with a vortex of information that comes from out of the blue, like the light bulb idea, the picture that tells you that much, right? They cannot lie to you. Everything else will work in. And you realize that when you go through this, you realize everything else is a delusion. And most people are living in a massive delusion state in their mind without even realizing it. And of course, species in denial, okay? And as Jeremy Gibbs says today, 95% is beyond the point of return, trapped in their mind, completely disconnected from their spirituality, okay? Which is their 27 biofields. When they have 32 senses, it's 85 to 93% of the brain. It's their 24th chromosome in dormancy. You can see in studies that research, people are trapped inside their mind with defective genes, 600 to 6,000 every Westerner. And now every single child born in America, okay, as said worldwide, 77% is born with chronic diseases because their parents are in denial. They were declared to be crazy in 1999, and they laughed about it and went into denial, declared 2003. And they just laugh about it in denial with mind control because their mind's under control. Consciousness aren't aware of the outside influence that controls reality when they can only 7 to 15% of their brain. Then the consciousness and all their grammar and all their artificial intelligence and all their evidence imitation and their religious political behavior, New Age cults, doesn't know what it's doing because every human being on earth is living in consciousness, a mental bent, a mental process, an illusion, imagination, set up by the Rockefellers into the conscious singularity by WF, and everybody lives in mentality and not spirituality. That's why every human being on earth suffers the human condition with aura going anti-clockwise at 98.7%. Only 1.7% does not live in their consciousness. Only 1.7%, 3% does not live in their mind, in mentality, in their consciousness, because they're aware of the outside influence that controls their reality. And they didn't give consent. Everybody else did and lives in denial about it. You know, like God couldn't trust anybody in this world. Why would he? The whole world's pear-shaped and anti-clockwise, program engineered, okay, and controlled by stress, fear, and anxiety in the body cells, and corruption, collusion during the daytime. And you cannot lie about this. DNA is a book of life. And yet everybody does. Well, that's why they keep suffering with mental disorders and defects, stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, and live in a comfort zone, and they'll never know. If they don't cross over and go through the rebirth, they'll never know. We're going the sixth mass extinction strip in the sixth sense for the sixth time. You look at Bryan syndromes worldwide in every peer report, everywhere around the world, escalating 7 times faster. What does it say with Bryan syndromes? They now realise every stress-related disease is attached to Bryan syndromes. Every mental disorder and every defect is attached to Bryan syndromes. And you know what Bryan syndromes is? Worldwide, in every mental disorder and turbocharging rates in cancer, it's all stress-related because we're losing our sixth sense. They're losing all their magnetic pulse with the EMP encoded intuitive power. The EMP pulse of righteousness. The EMP pulse of a relationship. Loyalty, honor, respect, moments, inspiration, and encouragement. That's your natural organic muscles. That's your natural primordial state. That's your spirituality. Love. Unconditional love. Righteousness. The quantum mechanics of righteousness is a relationship. And when people lose their relationships and they don't have codependent power in the EMP pulse and they depend on everything else, they're not human. They're called transhumans going into a zombie apocalypse, and they call it a body snatching virus and a zombie apocalypse because people are losing their aura in their body cells and all their magnetic fields in the 27 biofield senses. So we are saving humanity. We're saving their spirituality, right? And that's why it's about not about flesh and blood, but about principality and the power in the air. It's about spirituality. And that's your sixth sense to think outside the mind, not with the mind. The mind is the problem. You become your own worst enemy. Your mind plays its games in you because the poison mind, okay, will keep you locked up in prison and you become your own warden at the same time. Your own prisoner and your own warden in your mind. And your mind plays its games in you because it's only a personality. And it'll tell you whatever you want to believe in, like Christ's consciousness and sound heavenly, but it's only a personality. You'll learn that through 40 days of fasting that you are possessed by a personality from the tree of knowledge with voices in your mind that makes you suffer every single thing you suffer from and die prematurely. Think outside the mind, and that's where freedom and the liberation really is. The real, genuine liberation. Crossing over. I was chosen by the Father and went through massive events. Went through death experience, crossed over and sent back. A lot of things. And I was chosen like this. And I never read the Bible. I never went to church, but I can tell you now. I crossed more people over and saved more people than anybody else in the world really does. Listen to all the testimonies of my followers. Guys, listen. Most people will never make a video, okay? Maybe one out of 1,000. People don't like making videos. I hate making videos. I can't stand being here because I can't be myself. I can't be down to earth and honest and be myself like I am behind closed doors with my wife, because you can't. So when you come here, you're an actor, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from. You act and you use the best language you can to get attention, and that's what people do. I don't. I create a reputation by word of mouth. Always have, and always live by it, and honesty is the best policy, and being down to earth, right, and creating a reputation by word of mouth. Okay, I've always used a relationship and had a relationship with everyone. That's why I was on Squeezy Magazine for 2 years as creating the most positive atmosphere. And I put all the gangs together in the underground world and stopped violence because they looked up to me as a father figure. I had more people underneath me that had faith in me throughout my whole life, including cops and politicians that also retired the police force and set the circumstances. I got a lot of people going. Not everybody, right? But, you know, cops, politicians, pastors, preachers, and Christians. I had some beautiful people in my life, Christians as well, that stuck by me throughout my whole life, okay? And people are different, man, right? And you learn that you know, 98%, 99% of people are different, no matter what system you're into, no matter who you are, where you come from. But I can tell you now, 1% of people everywhere, you always find 1% of people on the right page. Cops, politicians, governments, authorities, I don't give a fuck where you are. 1% of everybody, right, I communicate perfectly with. And that 1% is a lot more than anybody else has got. But I can always get 1% of everybody, right, on the same page. And that's how I create a reputation by word of mouth. And people always looked up to me. Even the cops on their own affidavit commends me. I want you to listen to what I listen to every day. The miracles that are happening now, it's not just about me. I keep talking about my past because it's what I have to deliver. The most powerful miracles ever developed. And I've lived them, I've experienced them, and I've seen them with my own 2 eyes and many people. And when you understand that my brother didn't talk to me for 27 years and we lost our relationship because he was sent from heaven to earth, back to earth because of me. Because he was sent back from heaven to earth because of me, with one more opportunity. He blamed me for 27 years. My ex-wife, who I brought back to life with 7 period reports in Ipswich Hospital in 1992, mate, we broke up, okay? And I don't know why, but 11 years later, she writes the most powerful poem. Okay, they interviewed her and the same thing, right? And when you go through life like this and you hear these stories, they blow your mind away. I mean, seriously, you have the most powerful miracles attached to you like this, and you don't even know at the time. You're oblivious to it. And God's been using me and my vessel like this throughout my life, and I didn't even know. And that's what he told me. In 2016, when I had a massive divine intervention, wow, an orb of light came in Perth Detention Centre, you know, and Fabian was being unlawfully deported to Argentina. And in that moment, I said to him, "You're going back home to your mum," and he does. And miracles get created. I write 3 official documents, right? if I get unlawfully deported, God's going to send me back through the facial recognition system. And he does, with the most powerful confirmation. I mean, to live moments like this and have this kind of divine intervention that's fully recorded with miracles like this, the most powerful on earth, man, you have no idea what's like to be in my shoes, but it's happening, man. These miracles are coming to people all over the world. People's been sent to me since I've been here for 5 years from all over the world. Through visions and dreams, they pray to God and they're sent to me from all over the world, right? And so many people are going into the fasting for 40 days and with the book Freedom by Jimmy Gibson Audio and doing the When I Breathe program, the Holy Grail of Life and the Holy Breath of Life, because it works. And there are so many people that's gone back in their primal state, back in their innocent, and crossing over worldwide. If you take a look at Philip Keel and the video posted yesterday, Philip never believed in God or Christ. Most of my followers never did. Look now. They have a divine intervention. They know. They know the Father is every single thing in their life. And they're discovering that. They're discovering why they're going through this, why they're suffering, and why they're curing in the most unbelievable transformation they've ever felt in their life, with the most powerful confirmation and clarification, with real love. And the Father, God, our Father, is using my vessel. And they're going through this transformation in deep breathing with When I Breathe the program into the euphoria and the sixth sense and going to the light of the tunnel. And they're seeing me take them there. How do you think I feel about that? I don't even know. People all over the world are sent to me for visions and dreams, right, for resurrection. And God is working for people all over the world, sending them to me. And then these people that's crossing over through this 40-day test, listen to what they're saying like Philip. They see me and Marin at the light of the inner tunnel, the two witnesses. So the Father is showing them the two witnesses when they go to the light of the inner tunnel, and it's me guiding them with pure love, with nothing but pure love. And these people are experiencing this from all around the world when they go deep into this meditation. They go to the light in the tunnel and they're seeing me and they're feeling the love that comes from me. And I save them. And God uses me and my vessel to do this with miracles all over the earth. And most people never know because they're trapped so deep in themselves with ego and competitive behavior and jealous, spiteful, egotistic behavior that they'll never know. They'll never know. And they'll never be given the divine intervention and they'll never go through natural selection unless they cross over. These people are going through natural selection with divine intervention, man, no matter how you look at it. These are the voicemails I get every single day of people that'll never make videos. Please listen, guys.
Father Kim, I just want to thank you for what you've done for me.
Wait a minute, guys.
Father Kim,
listen to this, man. 1 minute.
I just want to thank you for what you've done for me. I miss my so much, Father. I really do. Thank you, Father. Thank you for what you done for me. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I can't help it. But thank you, Father. Thank you. I love you, bud.
Man, every day we're getting voicemails like this, aren't we, Maren?
Yes.
You're crying again. Man cries straight away. We're getting these tears and this kind of love every day, man. No matter what people say on social media platform when they text, but we're getting beautiful people all over the earth in tears because they're having massive divine intervention. And, you know, these are tears of joy, man. Right? Philip is like a baby on voicemail, what he goes through, and so is many others. So was Lincoln. Right? Do you understand that? grown men, grown women all over the world with tough shoulders going through things are breaking into tears of joy they've never had before in their life. Miracles are being created every day through me. God's using my vessel and Marin's for these people to find the most extraordinary divine intervention and power with love they've ever felt in their life, and liberation, the most powerful liberation. And God is working these miracles every day. Listen to Philip Keel. Go to my platform right now and listen to Philip Keel for 20 minutes. And listen to my followers, man. Don't miss out. Don't let your mind fool you, buddy. Don't let your own personality mentality fool you, because you will not understand with the mind. The mind doesn't know. The mind's the problem. You are your own worst enemy. Your mind plays tricks and games you. You become your own prison, your own warden. You don't care. You don't have your feelings. This is how you get natural selection back, with a natural order, with a divine intervention, and you feel it, man. You feel the love so powerful, it will break you into tears. And until that moment, you'll never know. You'll never know. But this is the rebirth. This is the crossover. This is judgment and saved. You are saved from this moment. Take the red pill, you can't go back because you wake up from amnesia. And you'll never go back when you wake up. And it's not what you think. It's not what you think. It's so much different, and your mind has no idea what it is. Trust me. Go through the 40-day fasting. Listen to when I breathing every day, right? Push the acceleration on the oxygen and create the ecstasy feeling, and you're in tap. And you tap right into your instincts. So think instinctively with your sixth sense. When you isolate with your eyes shut and you use your third eye to think instinctively and think outside the mind, and you create the sacred secretion you conduct with. And when you conduct, you feel the love pouring all over you. You feel the divine intervention, and I'll take you right out of your shell to the light of the internal, and you will see it yourself, and you'll understand yourself, and you'll get a clarification that you relate to that'll make sense to you, that'll put everything together, and then you'll know. Then you go for a transformation, right? A very dramatic transformation, but you've been saved from that point onwards, and you transform biologically with genetic memory and ancestry tools, and it'll come to you out of the blue, like the picture that tells you 1,000 words that cannot lie to you. The light bulb to you, the pictures that come out of the blue, it will come to you. And then you'll realize, I'm the one that's here to save you. I teach the resurrection and protect the elect, and it's not a joke. God developed it that way with miracles all over the earth. Okay? And those miracles are happening every single day, and people are sent to me through visions and dreams when they're serious and go deep. And most people are suffering. People that find me here, they don't even know they're being sent to me by the Father, because they're crying out from suffering, from mental disorders, stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia. And they know they're suffering from these things, and somehow they come to me, they find freedom through me with these tools, they cross over, and they never believed in God, never read the Bible, never went to church, majority of them. But I can tell you now, they have 1,000 times more faith than most people that read the Bible and go to church, because they're getting the genuine divine intervention. They're getting the confirmation that no one else is getting. They're finding out the crossover and how extraordinary and how wonderful these things really are, while the rest are trapped beyond the point of return, and you can't do nothing about that. So believe me, they are now tapped into the quantum mechanic of codependent feelings with the relationship. And that relationship gets you high as a kite, and you feel the love pouring all over you, and you adapt into that. That's what you transform into. You transform into the highest high with an ecstasy feeling 24 hours a day, and never suffer any stress, fear, and anxiety, confusion, frustration, delusion, paranoia, and no death experience ever again. Trust me, I know.